Hey everyone, welcome back to a new episode of Southern Dirt Farm and Garden. My name is Summer and today I'm going to be giving you a tour of my Central Florida Zone 9 garden. We are starting a new series this year which will be covering all of our fruit trees in our food forest. I'll be giving monthly tours so you can kind of see what is fruiting, what's flowering, what we're doing to all of our fruit trees throughout the year. What we're harvesting and how we're using them in the kitchen. So that will be the new series added to this year. I will still do my monthly garden tours, and if there's any other videos that you guys are interested in seeing, I know you guys have been waiting for my chicken coop tour. I promise that will be coming out soon. I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday season and got to spend some time with family. We have definitely been busy, and you will be able to tell in our garden tour today. I have not been focusing a whole lot on our garden and tending to it, but we definitely had some extreme high temperatures that were rare for this time of year that did a little bit of damage. We also had some extreme lows, which are also rare for this time of year. So, and we also have another frost coming up. So I'm going to go around and show you some of the damage, what we're doing, some techniques that we're using for covering our plants for this frost. If you're just now joining us, I do have a series called What to Plant and When, which is, I think, a very helpful series if you're just starting gardening. I didn't learn about what to plant and when until much further on in my gardening journey, and it has been so helpful to me to learn alongside you of planting the right plants at the right time. So I will put the link in the description below so you can find every single month of last year and what I was planting, what you can plant. So I hope you guys stick around and enjoy this video. So here's the entrance to our garden. We have two queen's wreath vines. We recently trimmed those back, and as you can see, little wispy vines coming out of it. It had purple, beautiful purple flowers on it. Usually we trim this back a few times a year, which will help push more flowers. And I've recently been propagating this vine for more trees in our yard, and also small trees that I can sell to the local community or even ship. So if you're interested in those, let me know. Over here we have our Vego garden beds, which I've been really happy with, and they're doing so well. The last, I think it was maybe 3 weeks ago, we had some crazy temperatures where it was just super hot, and all my lettuce and most all of my bok choy went to seed, which at that point you really can't eat it. I mean, you could, but it's going to be bitter. I was really frustrated because I was really getting a lot of food off of this lettuce and bok choy. But one day my daughter actually brought in, she was making some arrangements for our table, and she started just cutting these flowers off, and I thought it was so sweet when I looked at the arrangement and thought, you know what, I guess it's not such a bad thing. They're bringing a ton of pollinators in. We're going to be able to save the seeds from these, but it was just a different outlook. I was really angry about all this going to seed in the hot weather. I actually put a damper on a lot of my plants in the garden because it's definitely not common to have those hot temperatures in the middle of summer, but it's also not common to have as many frost advisories as we've had too. So the up and down temperatures has definitely made this garden a little difficult this winter, but I will show you what I'm doing to everything here soon. So I will be taking all of these out. I will not be pulling them out. I'm going to do what's called a no-dig garden, which will not be disturbing the soil at all. So I'm just going to be taking some cutting shears and cutting them all down at the base and then replanting back in. And over here we have our dwarf curly kale, dinosaur kale, and collard greens. This is more of a shadier garden, which is fine because most of all the things I have in here will do fine in part shade. And these greens will survive better in the summer because of the heat that we'll have out here in the regular garden. So we have pretty much the same items in our beds as we do in the garden, just to kind of show you comparison to our Vego beds and how they're doing just directly in the ground. And if you're interested in purchasing these Vego garden beds, you can save 5% off with my affiliate link in the description below. Over here we have some basil and mint. I have more basil, which I do need to trim back. It's going to seed. I have my eggplant that I've had for a couple years now. That's a shooting star eggplant. Over here, I've got some what's called purple potted peas. I grew these a few years back and they were just so beautiful. Our kids fight over them. They give off these really pretty blue and purple flowers, and they're definitely delicious. So the intention here was to allow it to cover that ugliness behind the this little power box here that I can't really stand here being in the middle of my beautiful garden. But we've made it work. Also, there's these really cool variegated ones that I think are really pretty. So over here we have our GreenStalk garden. It's our tower garden, which I'm growing a variety of herbs. I've got peppers, which actually survived our recent frost because GreenStalk offers a garden cover and a frost protection, which I'll show you my peppers that are in the garden in a little bit. They're awful. I'm so sad, but at least I've got a couple surviving pepper plants that are here in this vertical garden bed. We also have bok choy that we plugged in here. I've got some collard greens that look really well. We've got some kale, some flowers, and also some succulents that I put in here, and some pentas up top. So I've really been enjoying this. It's been holding up well, and all the plants seem to like it. The one thing I probably wouldn't plant in here again would be tomatoes, unless I get like a short stalked version. Not that you can't grow tomatoes in here, they just get really long and lengthy. They do have little plant supporters that you can buy for these. I just kind of like all the little short plants in here. It just looks better. Over here we have a ton of different succulents. We definitely covered all these in our recent frost. I've got some papaya plants that I had in my backyard garden that I decided to just bring up here to hopefully keep warmer against this wall and cover, because we do have another frost advisory, which more looks like a freeze for my area. This Vego garden bed, we have some onions here, we have some carrots, my lettuce here is gone to seed, my bok choy here is going to seed. This is the one plant I will harvest some bok choy out of because it was probably my prettiest plant, and I couldn't remember the variety of it, so we're definitely going to save the seeds from this one here. We have some purple cabbage celery right here, some Siberian kale, which is doing much more better in this Vego bed than it is in the ground. We also have some tomato plants. Here we have some moneymaker tomato plants, and I've got a little teddy bear sunflower and a marigold that actually was a volunteer that fell off of this garden tower over here. I still have pumpkins from the fall that we got in the mountains, and I want to harvest some seeds from that. This was actually the first herb garden I ever started with. This is what inspired my whole gardening journey. I started off with this just little bowl of herbs that was just so beautiful, and I started cooking with them, and it just changed the way I cooked. It felt like we went to a really nice restaurant when I started to learn how to use herbs, fresh herbs, in dishes. We have celery all through here. I did not cover my celery on this recent frost. Celery should be okay. It may burn the edges, just like it may burn the edges on a lot of different things that may still survive frosts. Over here we do have a couple grape tomatoes that my neighbor always gifts me. We did get a little bit of burn on these leaves because it was really hard. These plants are so big to cover and not have the covers touching something. So your goal whenever you're covering your plants is to use like a tent system. So I have these tall poles and then this pole here to kind of keep the sheets off of the leaves, because if the sheet sits on top of your leaf like it did here, it's going to burn it. Sometimes if you get too much of your main stalk that is sitting on the sheet, it could kill the plant. So hopefully this will do fine. These tomato plants actually look better than my other ones, which I'll show you in a second. But what I'll most likely do is just trim this back, trim all this dead off, and kind of see how it does. Hopefully it will survive our next frost advisory. But I have some Siberian kale here. This is the first year growing Siberian kale, which I'm actually enjoying. I've actually been using this kale in our omelets. It's super easy to cook down because it's a much thinner leaf than your typical dinosaur kale or curly kale. So it's really quick to cook down, throw some eggs, mushrooms, some onions, and we've been making some delicious omelets with these. Over here, you can see my eggplants are a little bit burnt on the edges because of the same reason. I really tried to use a tinting system here. I used some little T-poles for yard signs that we had sitting around. I had some little stakes, but even though it kept most of the sheets off, it still looks like it touched or got damaged. These eggplants my daughter actually started in one of my seed starting classes. It was really cute to see her get involved and start her own little tray, and she was so excited when this first started flowering, and then to actually harvest her first fruit off this and eat it was super rewarding for her, but also rewarding for me because I got to see it all happen. And if your kids aren't coming out in the garden with you, I encourage you to try to get them out here and show them some of the beauty that you see. So over here we have what's called dwarf curly kale. This is new to my garden this year and I'm absolutely enjoying it. I've been making a lot of kale chips with these. We've been stirring them up with some onions and bacon. They're just really awesome. I actually just bought some, I found regular curly kale. I wish these were bigger, but I only could find seeds for a dwarf version, but they're doing its purpose. And I recently bought some more plants that I'll show you in a second to go and replace these over in my Vego beds. Over here we have some collard greens. These are southern collards over here. And then we have some Bates collards. Actually, these are, looks like they got mixed up. These are, I think these are Bates. These are southern. And the majority of here, these ones are Bates. So these are all varieties of collard greens. I've been enjoying the Bates much better than the southern. They taste about the same. The Bates seem to have a thicker leaf, which makes them, for my personal texture choice, much better for collard greens instead of more like a spinachy type of texture for the Georgia Southerns. Over here, oh, I also have onions. I failed to mention. I have little onions growing between all of these plants here. These actually won't, that is like the longest thing it takes to grow in my garden. I won't be harvesting these until summer, most likely, or May. Over here, I've got some dinosaur kale. This is actually called a blue dazzling kale. I grew these last year and I absolutely love them. I can't really tell the difference between our regular dinosaur kale, but they do just look so pretty in the garden. I love pops of purple. That's kind of my thing in the garden because everything's so green, which is beautiful and luscious, but any purple pops are always fun to see. We have our dinosaur kale, which is doing really good. I've just got a random bunch of onions here. We've got some kohlrabi here. Ooh, this one's ready to pick. These have been really fun to grow. I've been growing these probably within the past few years. Honestly, we just cut these up and eat them as a snack or an appetizer with salt on them. You can definitely cook down these leaves. We've done that before, and just like you would collard greens. I randomly put in some more collard greens here because I had to literally plant my carrots multiple times because it was just too hot. They weren't coming up. I replanted, and I actually have one random one here I want to show you because of all my bunch of carrots that I did try to plant over here, one came up, and look how pretty that is. That's actually going to be a nice size carrot. Over here, we have our little carrot area. The kids have been picking through these. I did not thin them out. They're called tender sweet. I really need to start thinning my carrots. The kids still like them. Sometimes as we start pulling them up, it gives more space for some more to grow. Usually we're harvesting the majority of these in the spring. Over here are my very sick, sad, most likely dead peppers. A few weeks ago when we had that really awful heat, it really did a number on my plants. I was not protecting them with sprays because I didn't really pay attention to what was happening. Life was crazy, and we did get some bugs on them. I did send some pictures to our local ag extension to kind of ask, hey, what's going on? We had some fungus, we had some bugs, we had all kinds of things going on with my peppers. So unfortunately, this recent freeze definitely did a number on them. I probably could go ahead and overwinter them, but to be honest, it's probably best for me to just go ahead and see what these things do, maybe trim off some of the dead leaves. These over here did much better than the rest of them. I'm going to go ahead and just harvest the fruit off them, and I will be covering this Saturday when we have that other frost advisory. If you live out in the woods like I do and it is calling for frost advisory, or not even calling for frost advisory, it's still possible to get frost on your plants, which I learned the hard way a few years back when, you know, there was no frost advisory warning. I woke up the next day to plants like this. So I try to play it safe, cover my plants, run the irrigation, do whatever I have to do to keep the plants healthy. Over here, I did not cover my beans because I honestly ran out of sheets, and I figured I've already harvested a ton of green beans from here. I wanted to actually come out here and harvest the beans before the frost. I think these beans are going to still be fine. So today I'm going to come out here and grab all these off because Saturday will definitely pretty much take this plant back. Now, most likely, you know, we have this heavier mulch. We've got about a 3-inch layer of mulch, which does heat up the garden. So if it's warm temperatures during the day, it will definitely help keep the base of my plants a little warmer. Last year we had a freeze. I did cover these beans, but because it was more like a hard frost, and it stayed cold for quite a bit of time, it did kill back this plant. Well, I thought it killed back this plant, but it didn't. It actually, the bottom was saved, and it actually started producing a couple weeks later. So I'm not going to pull this. I'm just going to see what it does, and you guys can follow along. I mean, you can actually go back to last season on what to plant and when to kind of follow and see what happened this month last year, and kind of gauge of what you want to do in your garden from there. See, we still have a flower coming up here with little beans. Now our blueberry plants that we have about, I don't know, about 50 of them that line our garden. They actually went to flower quite a bit early than usual because we did have some colder weather. I think we actually got a light frost one night about a month ago, which then put all these into flowering. So I think with this multiple frosts, it'll actually do really well with our blueberries because they do need quite a bit of cold temperatures to produce well. So over here, I have a friend that gave me what's called longevity spinach. I am interested to see how it does. I really don't have irrigation hooked up here, so it's kind of just by itself, but I'll give you an update. I have not eaten any of the leaves, but it's kind of like a survival food. It can definitely grow into a big bush, and you can kind of eat it like salad or cook it down. So over here, I'm just going to go ahead and start with my tomatoes because the tomatoes have been doing great this year. These are called Moneymaker. They were actually given to me. I traded a friend and follower for Everglades tomatoes that I had, some Everglades tomato seeds that I sell, for his tomato seeds. And these have been great because they give off these smaller tomatoes. They're not super big, so most of the time big tomatoes you can't really grow well in our zone because they split or they get bug infested by the time it's time to harvest them. So a smaller tomato has always been better for me and my garden in my zone. So what I probably should have done is went ahead and harvested all the fruit, but I had so much fruit on it and I thought, you know what, it doesn't seem like it's gonna get that cold. But unfortunately it did. I actually have some green tomatoes falling off. I don't know if that's an indicator of possibly the plant is struggling more than what it looks like. I don't know. Maybe somebody else can tell me, an expert, because I'm certainly not an expert. I definitely will be picking these green tomatoes before our next frost advisory, because with the frost damage it already has and some of them being sick, I really don't think the plant is going to make it. And if it does, I'll have to be trimming back a lot of the plant. So with spring around the corner, I'm going to do my best to save these plants. But I'm not sure if they're going to make it. We'll just see. Over here, I have some more kohlrabi. Look at all these flowers. Can y'all see those? Look at that. All these blueberry flowers. Like, I've never seen so many blueberry flowers on my blueberry bushes. We've got some peas. Recently, I pulled up some cucumbers that I just never can keep alive. And replace them with peas because my kids absolutely love peas. We've got some kohlrabi here. I did have some beets that were planted here. I did like this seed tape, which did not work out really well. I had some squirrels come and dig up the seed tape and eat some of the seeds. So I think I have got like 4 down here somewhere. I just don't think I'm really going to replant in here. I'm just going to see what those do. I do have some onions here. I've got some cabbage. Again, with the heat that we had, I was not spraying like usual. Usually I don't even spray any type of bug control or mold control in my garden from like November to mid-spring because the weather's so cool and I usually don't have a whole lot of bugs attacking things in the garden. So those couple weeks, these guys got sick. I've had to pull a few leaves off. Over here though, they've been doing okay. I've got some broccoli over here that I started, some dinosaur kale. We have some radishes over here. I think I got random cauliflower here, some bok choy, and I did have some sunflowers along here that I did pull up recently, which I will be replanting sunflowers here. Just have like a little row of sunflowers. I'm planting mammoth sunflowers that can grow 10 to 12 feet tall, which I do have for sale on my website if you guys want to look at those. Here is an Everglades tomato that just was a volunteer, did not cover it, and you can see what it looks like. I doubt it will make another freeze or frost. Over here I had some sweet potatoes that were left over from last year and they just started growing. I guess I didn't harvest them all, which was kind of neat to see it come up, but I didn't cover it at all. Here is our surviving collard green from last year. I've always wanted to have like a collard tree. I haven't had much luck with finding collard trees that will last in our zone. So thankfully this guy actually survived all the heat through the summer and hung on. So this is the second fall that it's been producing for us, which has been really neat. I do need to stake it back up. We had some crazy wind recently that knocked it down. I have staged here 2 more areas where I've bought 2 more GreenStalk gardens, which I'll put strawberries in one, peppers and lettuce in another. I just have not had time to put it together. And here is that frost cover for the GreenStalk garden that was so easy to put on versus trying to tent your plants with sheets. I'm going to show you what I got going on over here. I've recently propagated some mango and some star fruit from my neighbor's trees. I knew that there was a frost upon us, and typically they don't pay attention to that kind of thing. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and take their cuttings, start my trees, and surprise them maybe with a plant if theirs dies. And of course, I've got mine too. Here are some more dwarf kale, and I did start some lettuce, didn't really do well. I do have some mustard greens. I'm not a fan of mustard greens, but I started them just to show you guys how they do. I did start some mammoth sunflowers here. Oh, and more bok choy. So all of these will go into my Vego garden beds. I have some extra foxgloves, which I did recently plant right here. I'm not sure how they did with the frost. I did cover these in case these didn't make it. So I do plan to plug these guys somewhere, maybe in the yard. And I've got random kale and collards, and I've recently sourced some strawberries, and look at how beautiful these guys are. But I don't have enough strawberries to go into my GreenStalk garden tower yet, so hopefully I can find some more of those. So if you guys even know an online company that sells strawberry plants that are a great source, let me know. I like to try to buy local always, and but at this point I can't find them anywhere. And if I can find them, they're so expensive, like crazy expensive. I don't know if you guys notice how much plants have gone up recently. So starting from seed and starting extra to sell locally might be a good thing moving forward. Here's some more of that longevity spinach. I've got purple and green. I've just been kind of propagating as I go. This will also go into my Vego garden beds. I've got some romaine and some regular curly kale. So I'm excited about that. And I do cover all my succulents. I do cover all these plants. So all of my lettuce, romaine, and bok choy has gone to seed in this trough here. And I am going to be harvesting the seeds from some of these, and then just going ahead and cutting them out. I don't know what I'm going to replant here yet. But I think that covers most of the garden. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you've learned something along the way. If you see something that I can be doing better in my garden, please don't hold it back. I do not know it all. This is a learning journey for me, as well as I hope it is for you. So if you have any suggestions for me or recommendations, please drop them in the comments below, or you can definitely private message me if you don't want to point something out. I have people messaging me all the time, which I love because it's definitely making me a better gardener. And thank you guys so much for your support in ordering the GreenStalk gardens and the Vego beds and all the products that I use, which you can find on my website, www.southerndirtfarmandgarden. All those sales definitely help my business grow, so I appreciate any of you guys ordering the products that I love and use, along with my seeds and my cuttings from my fruit trees. That has become a wonderful business for me to add on through the YouTube channel. So I just wanted to thank you guys. I will have some seed starting workshops coming up and some propagation workshops coming up, so stick around. I'll definitely announce them on my channel, and if you're not signed up for the newsletters, that's another way I let everybody know what's going on. So I hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you next time.